Hey everyone, I am jumping on live to Ash Rubin today about my Awakening Erotic Innocence workshop that I'll be presenting at Bloom Festival in July coming up. And so we're just waiting for Ash to jump on here. Hello, Ash. So
Oh,
excited to talk to you today. I just told everyone that we're chatting today about Bloom Festival and me offering Awakening Erotic Innocence and going in a little bit more about that. So if you're interested in what that workshop is and what the festival is, then I recommend that you, watch this live with us today. And over to you.
beautiful. Thanks, Jade. Thanks for introducing me. My name's Asha. I'm the founder of Bloom Festival. I'm also a business coach. I help businesses in the coaching and facilitation industry to grow. And Bloom Festival is a beautiful 4-day adventure, which I am super excited to take you all on. There's going to be embodiment workshops. There's going to be a lot of really amazing DJs and dance. There's going to be a lot of fun. And it's a drug and alcohol-free event. So we know that everyone there is going to be super present and super grounded. And we're bringing in this blend of like fun and adventure and excitement, and also reverence and maturity and presence. So that's what Bloom Festival is. Really pleased to have you, Jade, in here. For those of you who don't know, Jade has like well over 15 years of experience in archetypal feminine leadership and embodiment. And I'm going to start off by just reading the description, which is quite beautiful. It's quite poetic. I'm going to read the description of Jade's workshop. Jade's workshop is on awakening erotic innocence. I'm just going to have some water. Did I get your description right, Jade? Do you have anything to add to that before I?
No, that's good. Yeah, I'm excited. Yeah.
Oh, cool. So this is the description of the workshop. It's beautiful. You were born of your erotic nature, pure and unassuming, connected to your feelings, your body, your sex, and then life happened, conditioning you for excess pressure, performance, shutdown, shame, or judgment, especially around who you are as an erotic being. In this workshop, you'll be guided through embodiment and self-connection to uncover your true erotic nature and purity inherent at the core of your being. There'll be space for self-reflection, sharing, and powerful ritual for you to reclaim your virginal essence and open curiously with yourself as you access the freshness of each moment as the erotic and innocent being that you are, open to all bodies. I love that.
Mm,
I
mm.
love that. So Jade, tell us, tell us about this workshop. Tell us why it's important.
Hmm. Yeah, I really, when I wrote that description, I was like, this is actually poetry. It's artistry of the spirit and who we are as beings. And one of the things that I really feel so passionate about is when we can fully claim and own just the innocence within us. So the non-assuming, the parts that are actually really innately part of us being human, then it's like the whole world or universe opens up to us. And this is where I find that there can be this in the common narrative, in the common way that we are in the world, we can kind of be in the mind a lot, or challenged to really express ourselves, or even just wanting deeper connection and just having that sense of like there's something more, but I'm not quite tapping into it. And when I tune into awakening this current, it's not really a forced process. It's actually an opening to our innate nature, something that's already within us, that we're born with it, and yet we get conditioned. And so there's all these layers that can happen whenever, if someone was to judge you and that somebody was all of your, your schooling and your parents and the friends around you were telling you the same narrative, ultimately you're going to be kind of like oppressing your innocence or your natural inherent expression or your human potential. And so when people are coming into these spaces or wanting to access their, I guess, more true self, or be free and unapologetic, or open their hearts and express themselves, or when they see somebody that just radiates and is fully in their body and okay and open with life, there's a real permission and an opening into the innocence of just existing. And this is where, when we dive into exploring what it would actually be like before all of those conditionings, before all of those layers got put on us, and then also we can do that emotionally, we can do that mentally, we can do that through the body, but also through our sexual current. And I don't actually think that the erotic nature that we are is anything to be ashamed of. I think the shame is conditioning that's actually created some separation from ourselves and who we are as erotic beings, and that it can be as innocent and as sweet as a gentle touch on your skin, as it can be life force moving through, as it can be tears, as it can be rage. It can be all of the different layers, but without the goal orientated need to do something with it. Oh, if I access that, then that means I'm worthy or not worthy. It's like, actually, you're innately worthy. And this is where, when we can rest back into that, it can create a inherent safety or softening or opening that then opens all the possibilities. So yeah, I can kind of, I feel like I'll pause there and just see if that lands, or if there's anything that you want to add to that. But yeah, there's a lot more I can go into around that. But yeah.
Yeah, I feel the rightness and the power of what you're leading people into. Um,
Mm,
I know it's so easy to get swept up in the goals of life and a world of right and wrong. Like, we have clear goals, we're going in a specific direction. Yes to this, no to this. And when we become too fixated on our goals, when I become too fixated on my goals, there can be a sense of disconnection from my emotional and my sexual body.
mm,
And I think our society doesn't really create many spaces where we just drop into our feeling body and really connect with that, and the erotic body and the parts of who we are. Not just sexuality. Eros is so much more than sexuality. It's like the full life force in all of its different flavors. Um, we can feel a sense of hollowness or disconnection. I can feel a sense of hollowness and disconnection in my life, and so I'm really valuing the spaces that you create and that people like you create, where we can really tune into our own eros and our own emotional
mm,
body and our own sexual body, um, in a way where we're not trying to prove anything. We're not trying
mm,
to be anything for anyone else. We're just experiencing ourselves and dropping into, like, there's a lack of performativity, and it opens up a deeper authenticity. And what I love about those practices for myself is that I get access to my wisdom
mm,
and my desire and my intuition and all of these, like, deep internal qualities that just come from the journey within. So
mm,
um, firstly, I just want to express gratitude for what it is that you're creating. I think it's really
mm,
special and needed.
mm, thank you. Yeah. Yeah. The other thing that's sort of coming to me is that what I've noticed is that when this is shut down, like you were saying, the wisdom and all of that, it can be very hard to access, or it can seem like there's just this, like, chasing your tail after connection and never quite feeling full or whole. And so coming back to this, I guess in some ways it can be sweetness, or it can be like a purity of spirit and a purity in your emotional body and your sexual body, that then it's like a wellspring of life that continues to fill you up from the inside out. And it's like getting your compass back online, getting your knowing for what you're feeling, what you're needing, how to negotiate relationships, how to connect more deeply with the current of life and feel full from life. And when there's all of these conditions and this shame and layers upon layers about, around how you should be or how you should express or whatever, it's really hard to access that. And so then we end up in the doer mode or in our heads, or kind of having sex from a place of like, this is what I should look like, or this is how it should feel, but not actually really savoring it and being in the moment with it and feeling nourished by it. And so, this is where coming back into the innocent current around our eros, our life force, our erotic nature. When I say erotic, um, I think that smelling a rose can be erotic. Like I feel like feeling the wind on your skin can be erotic. Your whole body, not just your genitals, can be erotic. Can be a big, wide open expression of pleasure of life force. And so can the current of tears can be an erotic current of emotion flowing through. And so often, I love this analogy, and it's like we go to this symphony orchestra so that we can listen to the orchestra, we can hear all of the different instruments and be in life and be in the curiosity and what's going to play next, what's going to be felt next. We don't really go there just to hear the clang at the end. It's like that's not actually the it's not the point of sitting there for 2 hours in a full symphony. It's actually to go on a journey. And it's the same within ourselves when we can start to tap into that as a gateway to intimacy, as a way of actually knowing and being in relationship with yourself. And so I find the awakening of the erotic innocence, or it's like another way of putting that might be awakening the mindset around erotic innocence, and then awakening the body intelligence around erotic innocence, and then feeling the current moving through you is like you actually go to savor it. You actually go to be in life when you're engaged and open, and at the end of it you felt all of these things and you're like clapping at the end, you go, yeah, that was amazing. It's like not just, oh, how was that clang at the end, which is often what gets associated with the orgasm, like some peak experience. And yet every single bit that's playing out in that process can be so beautiful, and like the purity in a flower, or a leaf that's died on the ground. If you were to really take in its beauty, like in wonder, like you have like innocence, an innocent heart, an innocent mind, an innocent sex, so much more can fill you up than what you would even just imagine. You can walk past all of these things but not feel connected. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What really excites me about what the erotic innocence is a way of being is that we get to derive nourishment from life. Like we get to experience the beauty of each moment. Like when we smell a rose, are you just smelling it, or are you really feeling that rose and drinking in the depth of beauty? And I think we're taught to find fulfillment in tangible results, like more money or a more attractive partner or a better orgasm. It's like we're pursuing these specific tangible outcomes and we think that's what's going to bring us fulfillment. But without that erotic innocence, those things can actually feel really hollow, and we just keep bouncing from goal to goal to goal. We actually need that deep connection to the nourishment of feeling life in order for those things to become deeply meaningful and rewarding. It's a balancing out of the goal orientation of mainstream society, and it's a feeling of richness. And then when we have that, the whole worldview shifts. It's no longer I need, I must. It's like, oh, I feel full. I feel nourished. What's possible? There's an excitement about the possibility of creation. Yeah, so that feels good to
me. Yeah. And I think when that thawing out can happen, or we allow ourselves to be moved by life, something that came through for me a lot when I went through the floods just recently was I noticed all of the ways that I was kind of closed off to life, in a sense of like somebody would try and offer something and I would freeze. And so actually part of that freeze is like I'm blocking life and I'm not feeling myself. But some of the medicine for that is actually, can I breathe with it? Can I be intimate with it? Can I invite the space for my heart to break, for the grief to shatter me, for all of the ways that I've felt like separate to life or not receptive and not feeling moved by life, not touched by life. And so then I can have all these experiences and not feel touched by life because I'm not feeling, I'm not connected. And therefore, I've got to get more and I've got to be more successful, or I've got to have more of the external things. It works well for, the consumerism. It actually works really well for consumerism to live that way. But it's like the instant gratification and the getting the thing, like even I've had women and men come to me that are like older, like all age ranges, when they start to tap into their youth, their innocent channel, they look more radiant. They feel more receptive. They're softer. It's like everything's softer. And at the same time, it's like when I feel that current and that particular fragrance is online, everything gets stronger because you're clearer about what you feel and what you need and what turns you on, what doesn't, what feels like a boundary violation, what doesn't. And also you can have deeper level of sensitization and respect for other people's needs and the relationships you're in. And when that happens, you can test your edges and you're probably less likely to hurt yourself. You're more likely to be able to grow and develop and fill up as you go and feel more grounded and integrated, as opposed to I'm going to go and do this thing and we'll deal with the carnage later. Like you actually take yourself along for the ride in terms of that energetic or that way of being in relationship with yourself. And so I think it kind of starts there though, because when that bit's missing, it's really hard to, I guess, get the messages, get the listen to yourself, tune in, because there can be a callousing that happens, and life does that, in lots of different ways. But being able to practice and open in this way is actually a way to like just peel away or let the thawing out of the calluses, let there be, this real beautiful innocent current flowing through. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. You speak to this so beautifully, so eloquently. I'm really getting, yeah, well put, well put.
Mm, mm,
And this really speaks to the heart of the intention for this festival as well. Like my desire is that we can all come together in a very permissive space and an expansive space where we can really feel ourselves and be seen to feel ourselves, and that be okay and that be celebrated. That we put a pause on the rules and the goals of everyday life so that we can soften and give ourselves some time to breathe and process and catch up, and that be okay in the presence of other people, that be okay in community, that this be a communal experience. Um,
mm,
and I'm
mm,
seeing the festival drawing in so many people who have such range of self-acceptance and other
mm,
acceptance in all these different qualities. And when we're like, oh, I can really be all of me. I can be me in my power. I can be me in my vulnerability. It's like, oh, it's like
mm,
the constraints get released and
mm,
there's an
mm,
expansion of self. It's like, oh, I can be all of me. Oh,
mm.
um, and that includes deep grief and deep suffering as well. Um,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
and
it's
and
like
when
it's
we're
like
around, I'll do one more bit. When we're around like 100 people who are all in this, it creates such a powerful culture. It helps us move forward so much more than we can do alone. So
mm,
yeah, this
mm.
feels very, very synergistic.
Yeah. Yeah, and like it's like one of those pieces that I also don't believe that we can do this work entirely alone. Like accessing this as a relational component with the self, but also being in connection with others who are exploring or curious around that aspect in themselves, and you would be really fascinated to hear the exact same challenges coming up over and over again that you think are just your own. You think, oh, that's my private story that I get to hold on. That's the reason why I can't connect with people or be in the world. And then you hear half a dozen people say the exact same thing, or you feel that totally welcomed or opened in a space. It can change something, it can change something very core and fundamental. And that's where I feel like when there are spaces like, 100 or more gathering, that's pretty potent to be able to bring the shifts, bring the cultural pieces that actually have us go, oh wow, like who am I in my most natural state, in my most innocent natural state. And oh, right. So anything that I've experienced in my life that I've, whatever emotions you've gone through, whatever things that you've journeyed, when you start to connect with others and go, oh, that's not just some random isolated thing. Actually, every single person here has gone through everything at the spectrum at various points in their life, and I'm not alone. And then you can start to drop the separation of like, wow, you know, me and my pain. It's actually no, us and our collective story, and we get to shift that together. And if it's held with love and intention, I believe so much can heal inside of that context. If there's a real, I guess, honoring of the heart as well as opening to the edges, and yeah, allowing what wants to come, what's alive. And yeah, I'm excited to hear that. That seems to be part of the ethos of what's being created here, and to play my part in that and support others to do their part too. And we all create the alchemy together, every single person, not just those presenting, but everyone that comes creates that.
Yeah. Thank you for putting words to that. You put words to the thing I was feeling but not languaging. That was so eloquent again. And the thing that excites me also about this group context is that there's going to be a lot of different reference points for ways of being, quite diverse reference points. There's going to be like 25 different facilitators and a lot of people who I've like said, hey, I want you here for what you represent. And this rich palette of different personalities and archetypes that we can view and witness and be like, oh, how do I feel about this? Does this call to me? This doesn't. And it gives us all these new options, because normally in our lives we only hang out with the same 5 or 6 or 10 people, and they're usually very similar to us. But when we can open up the palette, we start to become inspired and see novelty and new possibilities, and gives us a sense of clarity and direction moving forward.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. And I think something that I love, and I find it's like one of the, I just got a whole bunch of love hearts. Yeah, something that I love, that I really, it's actually something that I really value in the people that are closest to me, is the how expanded their dimensionality is, like how much range they have to explore different aspects of who they are and their different expressions and their different feelings. And it's like not just this is who I am and this is like the tiny narrative that I need to live in for my entire life, but what what more can I stretch here, or what happens if I open this aspect of me, or what happens if I explore here. And I think there are naturally different people or different avenues that will support the opening of those different aspects. So that's the archetypal piece, or the particular wisdom that somebody is like embodied or anchored in their life, and you're like, oh, I don't actually know what that's like. Or maybe I lean in here and rub up against, to rub that, like let that rub off on me there. Oh, that's that part of me that's welcome. And eventually, more and more, the more you expand your comfort zone and who you are, you're like, oh, I'm just like walking range. I can switch gears at any point, and I'm not stuck or fixated or trapped in myself. I'm actually, there's a lot of freedom available actually here. And there's a lot of like permission and evolution that can happen too. It's not just about growth for some work that you've got to do. It actually becomes like a fun exploration of, whoa, like what, how do I, like how do I desire to evolve? Like what's my desire here? Like what's my aliveness here? Oh, it becomes evolution for the sake of desire rather than evolution, for the sake of like I've got to fix it or change it, or it becomes a
Mm.
more mature way of showing up. Yeah. And I will
Yeah.
always be doing that dance and that journey in my life. Like I feel definitely a devotee of evolution and desire. Yeah, and I know I'll be in that on that journey until the end of my breath, my last breath.
Yeah, as will I, as will I.
Mm, mm.
If someone's watching this and they're thinking about deciding to come to the festival, what is your message for those people?
Mm. Hmm. Yeah, if you're considering, I mean, actually, the first thing that comes to my mind is just how crazy it's been with COVID, and how actually I think that that's been a real, for me personally, and what I've noticed working with my clients and working behind the scenes is that I've just really missed being in person. And there's a particular piece that I feel has been missing in my reality has been this isolation. And yes, it's been really good to go insular and come into connection with yourself. And I think we've kind of been in the loving naughty corner of Mother Earth and having to find out our own stuff, the things that we've been running from, and addictions and whatever else we've had. But I do feel as a collective, we do need each other. We're pack animals. And so even just to be in connection with good people that are having real and honest conversation, when potentially there's been a lot of like, I'm alone, I have to process it by myself, I have to be alone in that, to just come in and be amongst other humans and to let the nervous system recalibrate to not being alone, not having to be in survival mode or isolation. I know that only just the last maybe month or so, I've just started coming back out and connecting with people in person again. And there's this kind of almost like a trembling in my system that's like starting to settle again, going, oh, that's right. Like I'm part of a humanity. There are people around me. I can get hugs. There are, ways that I can feel the human connection around me. I can synchronize with other people. And so I guess for people that have been in that, I would say that, that particular side effect or psychological um, pressure cooker, coming into an environment where there is an an intention for love and connection, for realness, for like having different workshops that will support that, and you get to have a bit of a smorgasbord or choose whatever, choose your own journey. Um, and even just hanging out, I imagine even like I've been to entire festivals before, didn't do one workshop, just enjoyed hanging out with people. So yeah, I think if you're being feeling isolated, I definitely think having good quality in person connect time with yourself could be a really beautiful way to come back online and enjoy this nervous system again, enjoy the
I,
body
I'd,
again.
I'd love to speak to that piece. Like even prior to COVID, we live in a very individualistic society that is prone to isolation. We lived in
Mm,
tribes, we lived in packs, and now we live in houses with like one or two or three other people. And our social and emotional landscapes are quite barren in a sense because we don't have those emotional connections that we used to have when we lived in tribes. And so we've kind of it's been thrust upon us this decision that the main source of regulation, the main source of self-connection or coming to peace is self-regulation. It's like I
mm,
I care for myself, I love myself, I nourish myself. I might have an intimate partner or a couple of friends that I connect with, but primarily it's a self-driven process now. And co-regulation, connection with others, being nurtured by others, being supported by others becomes a secondary. It's like, oh, that's the option that I go to when I really need it, but I'll do it mostly myself. And I question whether that's really the natural way of being. Like
Mm.
maybe co-regulation should be primary and self-regulation should be secondary. And if we lived more communally and with other people, there would just be this natural organic co-regulation happening all the time where we can derive resource and connection and support and ease and security from the bonds that we have around us. And I feel strongly about that. And I've worked on the skill of receiving emotional support from other people
Mm.
because it's not one that I was taught naturally. And my life has flourished, my confidence has flourished, my strength, my resilience, my power, my sensitivity, my vulnerability, all these beautiful qualities have expanded because I've learned how to receive love.
Mm.
And this festival has a lot of very skillful, co-regulating, loving humans that stand as example for how to do this. There's a lot of open-heartedness, a lot of care, a lot of maturity, and we're going to be having sessions on boundaries and consent and how to make choices and how to say yes and how to say no in an embodied way. Um, and yeah, this festival is an invitation to explore how to feel supported, how to feel connected. Um, Experiencing joy and liberation as an individual is very different to experiencing it as a community when there's 50 other people around you that are in a state of joy. It's like we can really bring in those resources. So yeah,
Mm.
that feels good. It feels good to hear that
Mm.
name.
Mm. Yeah, and I think that it's like it's like definitely having this symbiosis of not having to do it all alone, but also the the autonomy of like knowing that, oh, I'm responsible for getting my needs met, but I'm not the only one that can meet those needs. So it's like it's an ownership piece of, oh, I've got a need for a connection. I don't have to be the only one connecting, but I do need to own that that's my need and then get creative. And maybe there's other ways that that can happen. And so that's a beautiful point around the co-regulation. And, I will like, I've been definitely in the receiving codes since the floods and having to thaw out and let people love me and getting to that point of going, oh, wow, like I've really been taken out here. And I literally cannot just hold on to something and pull myself back up. I actually need to receive in ways that I've never had to. And just all the guilt and all the shame and all of the inadequacy around receiving that can be such a big part to journey, but so, so, so worth it because nothing in nature just only gives. Nothing in nature just only receives. And again, coming back to that erotic innocence part, the innocence of nature is actually it's a reciprocity. It's a giving and receiving to the point where it's like I don't even know who I've given to or who's given to me. It's like this kind of cyclical, like I feel full and grateful and someone just fed me a meal or 10 meals and here have some more meals and I don't even know who I've been feeding, but we've been feeding and supporting each other. And I think ultimately in terms of a vision for a community that can hold that, it's like generosity and reciprocity, but also this like self autonomy and owning self, but knowing that we don't have to do it alone. Like, there's no way that I would be sitting where I am right now without all of the love and all of the support of the community at large and people I didn't even know supporting and loving me. But in order for me to receive that, I've had to let my heart break so many times. I've had to feel the grief and the inadequacy and the guilt and the shame and the longing for receiving but not knowing how to get it, and like just so many more layers. And I teach this stuff, and I thought I was immune to that. I was like, no, I'm good. I'm like, no, no, there's always more, right? And so I feel yeah, excited about any opportunities for more of that to come through. And as a collective, and as one person starts to model it, or more people start to model it, it grants a permission, it creates a wave. And so, I definitely think the kind of community piece that I'm really all for is, yeah, is that love of self and love of other. Like, my needs matter, but so do yours. And how do we have interdependence at the core, rather than I'm all sovereign over here, got all of my shit together, and I don't need to meet anyone else's needs. I just need to meet my own. Or, over here somewhere where it's like, I've got to meet everyone else's needs, and I don't have needs. And it's like somewhere in the middle. Yeah, we can care and love each other
Totally.
back to health. Yeah.
Totally. And 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 I guess
So many love hearts. Can you see them popping up? That's you, Ezzy, isn't it? Oh my
yeah,
goodness. So
yeah,
beautiful. Mm.
so I guess if we kind of zoom out, this festival is a collective inquiry in how to stand in our sovereignty and our autonomy, and stand in our giving and receiving and our synergy and our connection. And it's done in a large group format because we're creating a culture. Thanks, Ezzy. Yes, it's you, Ezzy, the source of the hearts. Um, and it's done as a collective because like people are bringing their friends to this. They're creating reference points within their friendship communities, and
Mm,
then they get to go back with those realizations that they've shared with their friends and have them mirrored back to them over the weeks and the months to come, so that these changes really ingrain in our beings,
mm, mm.
which I love. I feel like we
Yeah.
can kind of wrap up around now. Um, if you desire to come to the festival, you'll see in the description there's a link to the festival. You can go check out the website. We've got tickets on sale. We've got all different kinds of accommodation. If you're coming from Melbourne or Sydney or anywhere, the weather's going to be warmer as you come up north, so it's a good opportunity to get out of the cold and by a warm fire. All our facilitation spaces are heated. We've taken care of everything. We're organizing shuttles from the airport. We're serving feasts for dinner, so you can meet lots of new people. This is a very well crafted and diversely orchestrated experience that will feel really good.
Mm.
I'm curious, Jade, if there's anything else you want to speak to before we finish up.
Um, just that, if you want to come along, or you have any more questions, then just feel free to reach out to me. I've also been given a code that will give you a discount as well. And if you want to have access to that, just message me and I'll send it through to you. Yeah, I'm also very available for conversations or chats around this. And yeah, I'm really excited to bring this through. It feels like, for me, coming out the tail end of COVID and the floods and all of that, it feels really exciting to be back and offering things in person again. I haven't done a festival, I don't think, since I went over to New Zealand and did the New Zealand Spirit, and I was like, that was the last big festival that, um, I mean, I did a couple of smaller ones, but that was the last big festival that I did, and that was just 5 days before COVID hit. And so I've really personally missed the in-person space, and I'm really looking forward to what magic's going to unfold there and being part of that, and yeah, supporting people to really, yeah, resensitize and get back into that connection with the heart, with the self, with the innocence and the erotic current, and how that'll inform all of the other pieces we've been talking about. Yeah, I'm really, really excited for that. There's nothing, it's actually like nothing more that brings me more joy than that, and being in that space. So I'm excited to come and serve and offer that. Yeah.
Mm, beautiful. Thank you, darling. Love that.
Mm,
Love your leadership. Thank you.
mm,
Okay.
mm.
Bye bye,
Well,
everyone. Hope you have a
thanks
beautiful
for the
day.
interview, Ash, and yeah, I
Yeah.
will see you all
I'll see you
soon.
at the festival.